Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to tell you guys something that I wish I knew when I was starting leatherwork. Why do we finish edges? Why not just cut a thing out, stitch it together or glue it together, rivet it together and call it a day? We don't do that. Why? It's more than just aesthetics. Now, obviously aesthetics matter. It's one of the whole purposes of making things, because we like to see how they look. However, we want it to last, and one of the greatest things about leather products in general is the fact that they last for decades when made right. So how do we do that? How do we finish edges? Because if we don't finish edges, what happens? Leather is fibrous. Leather is porous. Being porous, being fibrous, it absorbs everything. That's what patina is. Patina is essentially dirt. So that we know leather is very fibrous, very porous. If we leave an edge unfinished, if we just cut it out and leave it, it will burnish itself a little bit, but it will significantly reduce the lifespan of that piece. Significantly. Because it's absorbing your sweat, it's absorbing moisture, it's absorbing dirt, it's absorbing pretty much everything that is in the world around us is seeping into those fibers. There's two ways of finishing, of sealing our pieces edges. There are two brackets. There's burnishing and there's painting. And those are, I call them brackets for a reason. They're sliding scales for a reason. Because you can just use a bit of water, beeswax, rub it a little bit, call it a day. It's burnished. Is it? My thoughts are no, but anyway. Or you can spend hours sanding down the edge to get it as smooth as physically possible into a glass-like edge. People are going on this glass edge trend. I don't personally, well, I love it, but I much prefer painting. So you can either do a very, very minor burnish, or you can do a very major burnish, and there's a big time factor involved, or you can paint, and it's the same thing. You can put a coat of paint on and say it's painted. Yeah, technically it is, it's painted. Or you can do 10 layers of paint, which sometimes you do, but is that worth it? Now let's talk about why you do each one. Why would we use a paint over burnishing, or why would we burnish over painting? Well, it's very simple. Some leathers can't be burnished. Some leathers are much harder to paint. So shell cordovan, for instance, if you're in the States, you will probably have heard of it. It's much more common over there. It's also very common in footwear. It's very difficult to paint shell cordovan because shell cordovan is such a tight leather that the paint doesn't really absorb into. Some leathers can't be burnished because in order to burnish something you need to create friction, because one of the things that you're doing is creating enough friction there to seal up that edge. And if it's very, very soft, so generally speaking we're talking about chrome tan leathers when we're talking about painting, and we're talking about reddish tan leathers when we're talking about burnishing. You could theoretically burnish some chrome tan leathers. So there's chrome and there's veg, and then in the middle there's retanned. You can theoretically burnish chrome tan leather. It's very, very, very difficult, and you have to use additives. You can't just use water, it won't work. You can't just use beeswax, it won't work. You will have to use an additive, whether that be Tolkanol, whether that be Resolene, which is used very commonly within the horse equine industry to seal up the edge, because obviously in horses, in bridles, in saddles, having it long lasting is really important when it's going to be filthy. It's going to be cleaned regularly, because you're going to be using it lots, if it's a rein and you're pulling on that thing to control your horse, you're gonna put a lot of wear into that, and those edges are gonna get used. So Resolene is very commonly used. It's essentially plastic. Now let's talk about what paint is. Paint is essentially a plastic. Now, if you're a die-hard naturalist, not the type that streaks, if you're a die-hard naturalist in the way that you don't want to use anything that isn't natural on your piece, you won't use paint, because paint is plastic at the end of the day. But that gives it a benefit that it completely seals the piece. If you, let's say you've gone down that burnishing route and you spend hours sanding it from 220 to 300 to 400 to 600 to 1,000 and so on and so on and so forth. Some people go up to like 10,000 grit sandpaper. It's ridiculous. It will fade. I 100% guarantee you it will not last, because as soon as that leather changes in humidity or temperature, or you rub it, it will fade. It's inevitable. You will never see a glass edge a month down the line that's being used. Yes, it will last if you put it in a drawer and never use it, but the point of leather is to use it, to love it. So let's say you buy a card holder, a beautiful vegetable tan card holder, and the makers put in hours getting a glass-like edge. It will look beautiful for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, but down the line it will fade. If you've put hours getting the perfect painted edge, because it's a plastic, it will last. It may eventually peel. One of the differences between them is that veg tan burnishing will get less shiny, it will get less, I don't know what you want to call it, but less pretty. It will fade, it will puff up, you will lose that burnish. Paint will probably, I can't say every single paint on every single edge will peel, but paint will probably peel. For the same reason, the leather around it is getting thicker and thinner and heating up and cooling down and getting moist and drying out. It will fade. They both will. So, can you burnish chrome tan leather? Just about. Can you paint veg tan leather? Yes. If you love the look of veg tan leather and you want to paint it, please go ahead. It will work. You can paint veg tan leather. I do it on so many of my videos. If you go down the list of my videos, you'll see me painting a whole bunch of them. Can you burnish a soft leather? It's difficult. Can you burnish a soft chrome tan leather? I say no. Someone may in the comments say, oh, I burnished chrome tan pigskin. Fine, you did, yay. There's no such thing as impossible within reason. Really, really, really difficult. There are additives, and I'll talk about those now. With burnishing, there are additives. You can use water. You can use saddle soap. You can use beeswax. You can Tolkanol, Resolene, and all of these things help the sealing process. You could even use watered down white glue if you wanted. Probably do the same thing. I don't know what's in Tolkanol. There's probably a bit of white glue in there. Not entirely certain. So all of those things can be put onto that edge to help seal it, because that's the end goal, is to seal those fibers. So one of the secrets to both of these is to sand it before. Even if you just want to do a light sanding, even if you just want to use a 220 grit or a 380 grit or whatever it is, something quite coarse, and you want to smooth that down a bit, because burnishing, for example, different with painting, but burnishing doesn't fill in edges. You will get cracks and crevices and everything. You'll see all of the leather. It's really natural. You see the leather edge. You can dye burnished leather. So, and I'd recommend that you put the dye on before the Tolkanol. Use additives to seal that leather. Resolene is think about Resolene as a thin paint. Think about Resolene as a way to completely seal the edge, almost permanently, but you'll get quite a plasticky finish to it. You can't really get a pure Resolene natural finish. A bit easier if you water it down. With paint, it's much harder. And I get loads of people asking me, how do you get the perfect edge? Sanding, for one. Sand. Get it completely smooth first, because the more crevices are in your edge with paint, the more times you need to sand it down back to the base. Next, the one trick that I learned, I can't remember who taught me, so I didn't invent this, is after the first coat, you put quite a heavy coat on first. Get your creasing iron. I set mine to about 10 with a S0.5 creasing tip. It will glow hot. It will be really hot. And then you want to run it over slowly and heat that paint into the fibers, and it will smooth it down, and it will make your life much easier. You can get a nice passable burnished edge with one run after sanding. One run with let's say one run clean edge after a 400 grit sand, after a fine sandpaper, and then you just apply some Tokonol. You don't have to water it down, just some Tokonol and a canvas. Now, loads of people buy these silly wooden tools. I bought one when I thought, oh, I need one of those. You absolutely do not need one of these. Just some. It costs like £5 for 50 meters or something. It's ridiculously cheap to get some canvas, Tokonol, canvas, and lots of elbow grease, and you're sorted. That's all you need. Burnishing, to get a nice, simple burnished edge, does not take a lot of work. The paint, I know I'm going to get this question, what paint do I use? I use a Uniters. Oh god, what's it called? So I have lots of different colours. I buy Uniters. This one says Leather Master, but I buy it from aacrack.com. It's not expensive. You remember to shake it because it does separate. I use Uniters. I've tried Giardini. I hate the stuff. I don't know why, I just don't get along with it. All of the different paints will behave differently. So the information I'm giving you is based on this stuff. I really love Uniters. I think it's probably the best paint out there. It's the Edge Paint 2000 Matte. Really lovely. It comes in a million different colours, but you can also mix it, which is the lovely thing about Edge Paint. Is, oh, this is too green. Fine, add a bit more blue, add a bit more black, add a bit more, you can mix it, you get the point. So that's the paint I use. I use Tokonol. Now, if you're thinking, oh, this looks disgusting, don't use that. No. The more used, the better. This is covered in Tokonol and dye and all sorts of stuff. Don't throw this out. You want your canvas to look like this, and it will give the best burnish. You want it. You want the friction from the canvas. A pair of old jeans. Just cut up a pair of old jeans. It's perfect. It's it's perfect. And then use it. So that's what I use. Edge paint, Uniters. Burnish. I do burnish. Tokonol. And then the secret ingredient, if you want to get a super shiny edge, what's it called? Columbus, something. I snapped it in half somehow. I will show you how to use this in the glass edge video. Not quite as simple as you'd think, but I think it's very hard. It's used it's used to seal, to finish a lot of shoe heels. I think that's why it was designed. I may be wrong, and please do correct me if I am. Brilliant stuff, super hard, melts into a glass-like finish. So I rub a bit of that on and then burnish it again. I have a video on painting. I can do an updated one because my technique has changed a bit. That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for all of the support you guys give me. I really appreciate it. I've got a couple of videos in the pipeline that I'm working on, but if you have anything that you'd love to see, please do let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to become a channel member, and don't forget to follow me on Patreon. all of those things go to support the channel. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers and I'm super excited for it. And I'll see you next time. Have a fantastic week. Take care.